And without further ado, join me in welcoming our first author to the stage, two-time best-selling author, Ritu Goswami, author of The Holistic Lawyer, Use Your Whole Brain to Work Smarter, Not Harder. Hi, Ritu.
Hi, Martin.
So tell us about The Holistic Lawyer.
The Holistic Lawyer. So I wrote this book for overworked lawyers who want to learn how to work smarter, not harder.
Okay. And what was your process like? How did you get this book finished?
Well, we learn in the author incubator a process called being in flow. So I would write when I was in flow, and when I wasn't, I stepped away and did other things, and I would always come back to it when I was in flow.
Okay. Tell me about that. How did you know the difference between when you were in flow and when you weren't?
Well, I write about this in my book for lawyers, but it's a way when we feel connected, when we feel holistic, when we feel like everything's going the way it's supposed to be going, then we can really tap into our inner creativity, into our work, into what we're here to do.
You know, I don't think I've ever thought about that. Lawyers being in flow, like that's a very interesting concept. When you find a lawyer who is stuck or isn't in that place of flow, what is like the number one thing you usually suggest for them to do to get through that?
I tell them to breathe. So often, all of us, probably you and me right now, right?
Sure.
We forget to breathe, and that is the opposite of flow, right? Obviously, we're stopping; it's a blockage, and so when we flow, that keeps everything holistic, everything moving. And when we are not breathing, we are literally blocking parts of us. We're not connected. We're not whole.
Wow. When you're not breathing, you're literally blocking parts of yourself. So give us an example of what that breath is like. Like, is it a long, drawn-out, like, experience? Is it, like, one or two short breaths? Like, what type of breathing is that?
Well, it can be all of the above. I notice with my clients, with lawyers, they stop breathing. You know, when something happens with your client, when you're in court, when you're nervous, we often stop breathing, or something goes wrong, or something even goes well, like you're feeling good about something. Often we stop. So we can just allow the breath to go. So we don't have to do any fancy breathing techniques. First is just to pay attention. Be aware, are you breathing in and out, or are you holding your breath?
Cool. I remember one thing that I actually learned back in my days in college. I did a little communication situation, and we would always literally take 2 deep breaths, just like in and out, and then in and out. Like, do you see that works for some people?
Yes, definitely. And the big thing is taking a break and becoming present. Especially as lawyers, we're often thinking about the future and what could go wrong. Actually, we spend probably most of our time doing that and thinking about the past and what happened already. And so gathering evidence of what happened already, right? So taking the 2 breaths, even 1 breath. Sometimes I tell my clients who have trouble even breathing, just 1 breath brings you back to this moment where we are right now.
It's all about being in the moment. We actually have a question for you from Joy, who lives in Canada. And Joy wants to know, what was the best part of writing your book, and what was the hardest?
2 questions. So the best part of my writing the book, I would say the editing this time around. So this is my second book, as you know. And so the second book is a different, I didn't edit as much in the first book.
Okay.
So in this book, I had a great editor. Can I say her name?
Sure.
Bethany Davis. She's awesome. And the process was you write the book once in flow, and then you get to go back and you see what you did with fresh eyes, and you have someone guiding you. And it's a really creative process, actually. It doesn't have to be grueling like what we think. And also, for all of you writing books, the editing process, just like there's someone else watching what you're doing, so it's validation that what you are writing is needed.
What would you say was the biggest difference you noticed about yourself in writing the second book versus the first book?
Definitely my confidence. Going through this process once, I knew what to expect, and I also didn't freak out as much when like the flow we talked about. When I wasn't in flow, I'm like, okay, I need to be breathing, I need to be doing these things. And often when we're writing books about things that are so important to us, we are kind of going through that process as we write. So I was more aware of that. I'm like, oh, this is what I need to be doing right now because I need to write it for my readers.
Wow. So you got to know yourself a bit more, and that experience gave you the confidence to be able to chill out and just recognize when you need to take a break, right?
Yes.
Rather than trying to force yourself to make that happen.
Yes.
So that's really, really cool. What what would you say is the biggest problem you see lawyers face that come to you for help?
They often they call it work-life balance. So often, or we can call it overworking. It's this feeling of overwhelm and feeling that there's just not enough time, there aren't enough hours in the day, and that the work doesn't stop. It's kind of just, you never have that feeling of completion, like I finished something. It's always coming at you. So that's the biggest problem.
Awesome, awesome. That book again was Holistic Lawyer by two-time best-selling author Ritu Goswami. Get that book now. It's free today. You have no excuse. If you know a lawyer, if you know you need a lawyer, if you have a family member or a friend who's gone and saw a lawyer, get this book and give it to them and have it send it to them as a Valentine's gift. Isn't that cool? The Holistic Lawyer.
There's a heart on it too.
Yes, and there's a heart. Just in time for Valentine's. Look at that. Congratulations,
Thank
Ritu.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.